It's about to get real nerdy in here.
Yep. It's kind of surreal to be at this point in time where Metroid Prime 4 is finally in our hands and no longer just an ethereal concept that has been delayed for a longer period of time than the last Metroid drought has lasted. Metro Studios returned to the helm after Bandai Namco supposedly failed to materialize something worth releasing, and because Nintendo put themselves in this situation after releasing Metroid Prime Federation Force, but that's a story for another time. So after 8 years in development, was it worth the wait? Let's find out. The story starts like many others, where Samus is responding to a distress signal sent by the Galactic Federation that they need help again. So she arrives at the Federation's UTO station and finds that the pirates, led by Sylix and his Metroid-fused underlings, are stealing some unknown artifact of great importance to them. A battle ensues between the two hardened bounty hunters that causes said artifact to malfunction and warp Samus and other characters with plot armor to an unknown planet, later to be revealed as Viros. It's here at Viros that Samus discovers that not only is she the Chosen One again, destined to recover the memories of the Lemorn's lost civilization, but she also discovers other Federation personnel that got isekai'd as well. Now that we're at this main starting point of the game, let's start with this. It is a bit regressive, if not silly, that we're going back to the Chosen One motif again after the series already explored that in Prime 2 with Illuminoth. So much so that it kept me on my toes to be wary of the Lemorn, which is a pun on Lemorn. However, as more of the tragedy of the Lemorn's downfall through the green energy is revealed, the more questions I have than answers. While they found the cause of their mutations and tried, and failed, to cure their corrupt, inflicted brethren, the game never explicitly says how this energy source came to be, only that they found it within the volcanoes of the Fireplace and extracted it as part of the Machine Era. It's possible that the interference from the artifact and this green guy messed with the timeline, considering they're literally off the charts. The star charts, to be exact. Still, after uncovering more of their lore in the logbook and completing the game, despite not having a thorough explanation as to the origins of the green energy, the overall lore behind the Lemorn feels serviceable to coincide with the gameplay. Speaking of, I'm glad to say that for the standards the trilogy set, it felt nice. The justification for the Psychic Crystal, while a bit goofy at first, especially with the motions of solving keys having felt like a remnant of the Wii days using your nunchuck, or your Wii remote to make some involved motions, it did lend itself a lot of credence to utilizing old power-ups in new ways, mainly the bombs and the Psychic Charge Shot. Those are for the new abilities though, but how about some of the old ones? In particular, the beam combos? Well, this time around, I gotta say, none of these felt like they were wasted or too situational compared to the beam combos of Prime 1 and 2 Flamethrower. No, I actually enjoyed switching between them once I unlocked the beam combos by acquiring the chips on Viros. And I couldn't have gotten this far despite my Lemornian tech, without Miles. Yes, I'm in the Pro Miles camp, go see it if you hate nerds. Anyway, in all seriousness, he does get a lot of hate, but as a character, I really don't have any negative thoughts for his characterization. And as an aside, on the world map, I kept stupidly asking for help when I meant to press the other button.
Come on back to base camp and show me what you found in Ice Belt.
I pressed the wrong button again. That's just on me. Having said that though, I am in the camp of Metroid fans that enjoy talking to NPCs, especially after Prime 3 brought them aboard with tons of flavor dialogue with the Galactic Federation, and Metroid Dread utilized minimal, albeit expository dialogue with Quiet Robe. Prime 4's characters, whether at the UTO station or in Viros, lend themselves well to providing flavor text when you choose to talk to them, even if they can feel a bit tropey.
Sarge, look! She's doing Morphball.
Yes.
However, as I said, Miles' characterization isn't the problem, it's his function in the game. He's the stand-in for the long-range communications Prime 3 had with Aurora Unit 343, and while that AE would prompt you on where to go for the next mission objectives between planets, not only does Miles do that, but he also very quickly prompts you on where to go next in a manner that feels more intrusive and less well-paced.
If you're unsure where to go, you can always explore the unsurveyed areas.
Being blunt for a second, as much as I wish this Sin system could be turned off like in prior games, I personally didn't mind it all that much unless I was in the desert mining for crystals. But with all of that, it doesn't even compare to the vitriol I have against Tokabi's function of the game. Oh, don't you worry. I'll get there. Hear me out on the desert. It's fine in concept, but it could have been cut down significantly with less green energy crystals to collect to unlock the rest of your abilities shown in the menu. Also, it immediately let me down with the idea that I was going to be in a non-linear game since I could traverse to each of the main regions in the corners of the map. But
Have you checked out the volcano?
nah. Anyways, just shrink this down by like half or so and I'd have been fine with it. I don't know if the green crystals were optional because I made it a point to collect everything on this slow-ass thing. But I made it a point in my first playthrough to grab them all anyways because, hey, we have a motorcycle in the form of Viola, so I might as well make the most of it. Conceptually, Viola is fine. It's a fast travel method justified by the existence of the desert, but beyond that, it really wasn't anything intrusive or out of the realm of sci-fi Metroid is set in. As a combat tool, while it does get very repetitive in the desert, not helped by the fact that the desert is bigger than it should be, it does work well as an alternative means of travel in the volcano land and against the main boss within said land. I only wish that it was utilized a little more for combat in other parts for mini or main boss, but it did lend itself as a good extension of Samus, especially here on the planet. For the next game though, I would actually like to see them follow through on their scrapped plans to make the gunship the usable combat vehicle. It worked fine as a means of transportation, don't get me wrong, but if combat could be as fleshed out as the one from the boss fight in the volcano region, I'm sure the devs could go back to the drawing board and work up the gunship to have a better gameplay function for combat in the next game. It still has Prime 3's combat-ready design, so I think it's safe to say for my fellow fans that we would welcome this return. You know what return I wouldn't welcome? Tokabi. Holy fucking shit, that item hum was a load of fucking bullshit! I'm losing my marbles here. What do I do here?
I found something near the cargo launcher. Here.
What do you mean? You just had a fucking teleporter chip lying around the whole time. You couldn't have given it to Mackenzie. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Fuck common sense, you know? The game needs to progress. Somehow. There needs to be some sense of progression. Yeah, whatever. Having your expansions be at the mercy of spawning at random wherever the fuck Tokabi felt like pissing off to has to be the most anti-Metroidvania design choice ever since Other M made the not final boss only be defeatable by triggering a cutscene. But while that stupid event only had to be triggered once, you have to scour around the map to find Tokabi's camping grounds 3 times. Like I said, the desert's existence isn't the problem, but the bloat of its own size coupled with this and the decision to have him hoard your stuff just baffled me. And I spent so long trying to figure out where this expansion by the cliff was. What do I do to get up top? Imagine I get like a fucking paraglider or something equal to that to get this item up here, whatever it may be. Now, what it actually is, I don't fucking know, because this thing appears to be inaccessible as of now. It wasn't there. Not this time. It was there. And the next one might be there. Or maybe on my next playthrough, it'll be there first. Or last. Have fun finding out next time you try 100% of this game's items. I sure as fuck won't. Tokabi aside, the combat on foot felt like a small refinement of what came before, be it with the ability to speed dash forwards or backwards instead of just side to side, having one pool of ammo for all of your elemental shots, stop yelling to me that I'm out of ammo, leave me alone Pokemon, or using free aim to take on the bosses in conjunction with your new abilities. Now that I think about it, it would have been funny if, after getting the Psychic Power Bomb, when we go back to the Ice Belt, we could face off the pack of Space Wolves again, set a Psychic Power Bomb, and chuck that nuke right into the pack of wolves just to vaporize them on the spot after dealing with the forced "you just gotta lose" event. Hey, a man can dream. Everything in your arsenal can be utilized in some manner against most bosses, and with the final Sylex fight after he, packed the drones to do his work while he recovered? Yeah, sure. All of the weapons you collected at your arsenals are yours to use to lay waste to this technophilic asshole. No screw attack though. Retro ain't taking their chance with that exploit again. Instead, you get the help of your allies, including the actual goat, View, as they take him down alongside you, albeit at a slower pace since they're not you and they don't pack the same breadth of weaponry you've got. Still, any help's appreciated. But they're gonna need all the help they can get after Sylex proves literally too angry to die and forces your friends to hold him back after a cheap shot while you escape, ending the game in this somber but bittersweet ending. Also, this is the best her face has officially looked as a realistic human, and I will not be elaborating further. If you 100% the game, then it will elaborate why Sylex is a thing. Spoiler alert, he's a petty asshole. Yeah, for all the hype talked about Sylex and the potential talked about in behind-the-scenes interviews, they made him an even easier person to despise. And making him human, let alone a dishonorably discharged Federation commander, works as a nice contrast to Samus's gentle and selfless nature. If nothing else, it really makes me want to kill the bastard. But less in the, "you're a potentially limitless omnipotent force that's gotta go," and more in the, "sorry Samus, but I think we gotta kill this guy" sense. Now for the music. It's kind of a miss. Prime 1 had multiple genres ranging from the sunken frigate orphan to the industrious phase-on mines. Prime 2 had Torvus Bog, yes, even the surface theme that keeps getting snubbed compared to the underwater counterpart, and the Sanctuary Fortress. Prime 3 had an excellent song that gave the sense that you were in the presence of a foreboding ancient civilization in the form of the Reptilicus ruins. And while their society is long gone, the theme in the background bombastically boasts its power still present in the environments you traverse while in the Brio cliffside. Prime 3 also has heavenly choirs and harps ascending your soul with the music that plays in the Skytown Elysia. Combine those with other tracks sprinkled throughout that played in different events across the OG trilogy, and you realize that it set a high bar that Prime 4 needed to clear. So how did it do? Well, thematically, while the Lemorne's present throughout Viros, while visually conveyed thoroughly all throughout the main zones, it does fall short in the music category for most of the songs. Let's start with the biggest personal letdown that I had from the very first trailer, Fury Green. Right off the bat, the song feels inorganic and artificial sounding as it's relying a bit too heavily on the vibrato choir rather than letting the choir be a supportive but integral instrument for the theme. All three games, whether it's the Artifact Temple in Prime 1 or Rundus' theme in Prime 3, blended in the choirs and vocals better in their songs than Fury Green's usage of a choir. Bolt Forge and Fire area were passable tracks, and while a bit more upbeat theme akin to the Gritzy Desert would be jarring, I would have preferred something a bit more melodic and less atmospheric for it, as well as for the other zones mentioned. Then we get to the Ice Belt. I'll admit, I didn't think I'd like this song after playing through the zone and activating another generator, but oh boy, once it came back on, it felt like an "oh yeah, we're back" moment. The buildup of instruments at the intro matching with the generator startup, and the persistent percussions proclaiming their power along the rest of the instruments used from the intro onward, it felt like an awakening. And it also felt jarring. Not because it's a bad song by any means, but because after hours of feeling let down by a subpar soundtrack up to this point, we got this gem waiting to be discovered like the generator waiting to be reactivated at full power. Also, the Space Pirate theme was overused more than I would have liked in the wrong places. Like, for the intro I get it, but honestly I would have preferred a version at the beginning where the guitar riff didn't play out until we got to Sylex's intro in the story. I don't know, maybe the trailer really set my expectations for how that theme was going to be handled. From that point onward, we don't hear the theme again until after the final boss fight when he re-emerges clawing out from Nintendo's Forgotten IP dungeon, which, yeah, that felt very fitting, unlike the last time it's used. Yeah, the 100% cutscene, it just feels like they just ran out of time to come up with a new musical piece for this. But if we're gonna go with another Galactic Federation versus Pirate theme, honestly, I would have preferred if it had a different rendition of the Space Pirate theme, even if it was remixed from a prior entry, including Federation Force. Or hell, use one of the Galactic Federation themes from Prime 2, 3, or Federation Force. By the way, did you notice that we had a DMV test for the Viola bike? I forgot to mention that when I initially wrote the script, but I found the concept kinda funny. Overall, Metroid Prime 4 Bonds Beyond Time feels like it was something that was a bit of a duct tape job between the three games trying to bring in the best of all of them, and less like an "oh yeah, we're so back" entry. Despite falling short of the mark on a couple of different areas, look at you, Tokabi! It wasn't such an egregious letdown that it would mark the beginning of another dark period in Metroid, but it feels like more retreading and less polishing than the series has been known for in its heyday. In a way, it kind of feels like Puss in Boots, the movie. Sure, it was serviceable, and after the movie that came beforehand, it wasn't really that much of a letdown. But that just meant the expectations were low enough that the next entry, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, was crafted so well that it not only went above meeting expectations, but it became a masterclass in its own right. In that way, Metroid Prime 5 could have the potential to pull off that kind of hat-trick whenever it comes out, especially because it won't be bogged down by being delayed because of COVID, as well as switching hands between two different developers. Prime 4 was decent, but not the most solid launching point for a new trilogy as I'd hoped. If Retro Studios gets down to brass tacks, trim out the fat, and continue using what worked, Prime 5 can attain the critical zeitgeist Prime 2 achieved all those years ago. And hopefully that won't be another 7 years until we get it. Wow, I hate saying that aloud and articulating the passage of time like that. Okay, bye!